Hi, I'm Karl Rosenberger, Chief Technologist at RAVE Computer. RAVE Computer is a elite pro-visualization partner with NVIDIA Corporation. And speaking of NVIDIA Corporation, I'm here today with Tim Woodard, Senior Solutions Architect with NVIDIA in pro-visualization focused on the public sector. Today, we'd like to talk to you a little bit, or talk with each other a little bit actually, about some of the pros and cons of consumer versus professional GPUs. We hear a lot of myths, we hear a lot of misperceptions in the marketplace, we have for years. And we want to get to the bottom of a few of them and decide whether they're myths or facts. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So the first thing we want to talk about is, are professional GPUs slower than consumer GPUs? It's a common perception in the industry. I can't tell you how many hundreds of times I've heard that from customers. How do you feel about that, Tim?
It's a great question, and one I hear about as well all the time. So, if you go back historically, there was a time when our professional GPUs, which used to be under the brand Quadro, today, starting with the Ampere generation and moving forward, our professional GPUs are NVIDIA RTX. Our professional GPUs would be maybe a generation behind the comparable consumer GPU and downclocked. And so you would have seen performance differences in the past. Today, that's actually kind of flipped. So, on our professional side, that's where our GPUs with the largest chip and the biggest memory is typically available. So that's something that's important to note, is that those GPUs are going to typically be just faster and have more capabilities, but much of it has to do with the software, which I think we'll talk a little bit more about as we move into some of the other topics today.
Certainly. So one of the things that's kind of a follow-on with this is professional GPUs are considered more expensive than consumer GPUs. It's another question or another understanding perception that we hear all of the time. And obviously, there's a lot more to the picture than that. Could you talk a little bit about that aspect?
Absolutely. So if you're just comparing board to board price, then yeah, you're going to see a difference between a consumer GPU and its comparable professional GPU. But what that doesn't really look at are all the other additional capabilities that come with a professional GPU, and sometimes the hidden costs of going with the consumer side. So an example of that, and we just talked about performance a minute ago, is that our professional driver is designed to recognize professional applications and will tune driver settings for those applications to ensure the greatest performance. So that's a pretty valuable feature. In addition, there's all kinds of capabilities for things like multiple displays, synchronization, mosaic, warp and blend, if you're projecting onto a curved surface. And then putting multiple GPUs into a single system, which I know that's something that you guys do a lot of work as a system builder, probably seeing those trends with hardware consolidation.
We're seeing a lot of them, everything from enterprise computing all the way down to very specialized computing, for example, in the training and simulation industry. People more and more want to not only consolidate, but protect their IP, and they want to have a network-based access model. And so it makes sense to consolidate GPUs into servers, go with professional enterprise-grade support infrastructure, and give people access to them over the network. Every year, we see more and more requests for that type of topology.
Yeah, and an interesting point about moving to that data center model is that it opens up possibilities that don't otherwise exist if you just have lots of single computers out there with individual GPUs. Now you have a high performance compute cluster that maybe is in the VisSim world providing training by day, and at night you can use that for training AI models. So you now have more value in that platform than you otherwise would have had.
And more flexibility too. I'm just thinking about how you can slice up GPUs, or you can create GPU pools, so you can expand and contract to be really efficient with your use of the GPUs.
Yeah, virtualization is a massive benefit on the pro side. And again, that's simply not a capability that exists on the consumer side. So if you're just comparing board price, it's kind of apples and oranges, because they're really not comparable products. They offer very different feature set. And on the professional side, it's really a superset of the consumer side. There's all these other capabilities that you can take advantage of.
I think apples and oranges is a really good way to put it, because they're two different things. They're two different sets of value that you get. And with the professional product being a superset of the consumer product, it's really easy to understand that you don't have to go with a gaming card because it feels like a gaming application. You can go with a professional card and get everything the gaming card offers, plus a whole lot more.
Yeah, no doubt.
So that kind of leads us into another question that people have, which is, do game-like applications, do they always run better on consumer GPUs, or can they run better on professional GPUs? And, I think about a lot of our customers are designing applications on top of Unity or Unreal. Immersive experiences are really popular right now. And of course, we've got all kinds of applications of this in training and simulation where RAVE does a lot of work. What do you think about the performance of applications on one platform versus the other?
It's a great question. And this gets back to some of the things that we've already talked about with respect to how the driver treats certain applications. So, by default, our driver, both on the professional side and the consumer side, is set up to recognize certain applications and apply the appropriate optimizations. So games are a good example. If you're playing a AAA game that you can go buy at the store, the driver is going to recognize that app. But if you have a custom developed app, even if it's built on one of these game engines, there may be optimizations or capabilities that you're not leveraging because the driver doesn't recognize that app. And that's something that we can work with professional app developers to ensure that those settings get applied. Another area where there's maybe a potential big difference in performance between the consumer side and the professional side is the frame buffer memory. So if you look at modern GPUs and the amount of memory that they have, on the professional side, there's typically quite a bit more. So as model sizes increase, as complexity of the scene detail increases, having a professional GPU can bring significantly greater performance, even for game-like applications built on common game engines.
We have learned through relationships with customers doing product development virtually, the frame buffer size is absolutely critical. And some other things in the driver that we haven't talked about yet have proven to be pretty valuable as well. And what I'm referring to here is on a GeForce card, the driver is going to be tuned for frame rate for performance, for getting the frames out as quickly and keeping up with that frame rate. But in a professional visualization driver, you're focused on accuracy and completeness.
Yeah, one of the topics, it's like kind of along with this, the topic that comes up so often in the VisSim world is determinism, right? You want to have consistent performance, and that is a big difference. There are capabilities on the professional side that can help determine or help result in determinism for those kinds of applications. And things like synchronization of multiple GPUs to ensure that those frames are being generated at the right time across multiple displays.
Well put. Well, I'm going to say that is, it's a myth to say that game-like applications would run better on a GeForce. You mentioned earlier that a Pro Visualization product is a superset of the gaming product, and I think that this is a really good example of how that works. Thank you very much for the conversation today, Tim. It's absolutely an honor and a pleasure.
It was my pleasure.
I'm Karl Rosenberger, Chief Technologist with RAVE Computer, and again, this is Tim Woodard, Senior Solutions Architect with NVIDIA Pro Visualization focused on public sector systems. Thank you, everyone.